Why are you following us? Adam asked, looking up and waving a hand at Sergeant Torn as she sprinted with the town car over to him, stopping mid-stride, looking to Classy, who gestured for her to return to her side. You don't have any comms? No hidden microphones? Simila asked softly. I don't, said Adam, changing his stance to be ready to bolt if needed. Why? Listen, I had my girls dig into the people that hit you outside the bar, unofficially of course, and I got some fucked up reports. Why? What the hell is so important that you follow 2 death's heads into the royal sector in front of an imperial manor? Last I checked, your line of work probably wouldn't do well under scrutiny. You're right, but... She inhaled a deep breath and leaned her head back against the seat. Listen, every one of the people we killed, or were either victims of a male trafficking ring that was busted last year, or had family that, well, that didn't make it out. Holy shit, said Adam, eyes widening. There's more, Simila interjected. That ring, they're the ones responsible for... She trailed off as she choked out a sob. Adam stood in stunned silence, still not processing the entirety of the situation. He placed a hand on the woman's shoulder, gently for the open window, as tears welled in earnest. They're the ones responsible for my husband, she stated, after several seconds to pull herself together. They were known as the Silver Suns. They dealt in a lot of illicit goods, weapons, drugs, and, most importantly for their bottom line, men. Simila took a moment before continuing. Varan was out grabbing groceries, and they took him. Flew him off-world, and strung him out on menthol for weeks on end. I called our entire squad for our days in the ARI, and we finally found him. He was taken around the Empire, but after months of torture and... well, he ended up here, on Shill. Apparently some of the powerful women that bat the SS like men with some fight in them. She made a disgusted face before finally settling on rage, her eyes hooded and her shoulders hunched. We finally found him beneath some dingy gambling parlour. We killed every woman in there. The final moments I spent with my husband were in a stinking shit-filled cage as he bled out from a stray round. I held my husband, broken more than any enemy we've faced together could have done. Holy shit, I'm so sorry, said Adam, tightening his grip on his shoulder. What? Adam, you remind me so much of Aram. You both fall like Grinshaws when backed into a corner. I will not see you broken, strung out on drugs against your will, and raped by every woman with credits to throw in an organization. The Silver Suns may be broken, but the roles that bat them? No one figured out who they were, or no one wanted to challenge them. What are you saying? I think, at least from the intel, that the Duchess may be involved. Why else would victims be banding together to assassinate someone so powerful? Adam's back stiffened as the information solidified the connection he was suspecting in the debriefing the day prior. Tonight, after I get back from the party, I'll meet you on the roof of your bar. I'll bring the team members I trust, and we'll begin to dig further into this. I made a similar case to my team leader yesterday, but she didn't want to hear it. I'll see you then. Oh, one more thing, she said, handing him a small metal bracelet. Slide this panel open and push this button. It's a tracker. If you get into trouble or get grabbed, I'll bring my entire crew and show whoever nabbed you how a real Shavanti woman fights. Adam nodded, and clipped the bracelet to his wrist. See you then. Stay safe, Adam, she said, roaring the window up, the car speeding away shortly after he started his walk back to his fiancée. He strode up next to Indara, taking her arm in his as they walked past the gate guards and into the dense gardens that lined the approach to what was practically a castle. Who was that? Sir Miller, the bar owner who covered my team with the sniper rifle yesterday, he replied softly. What does she want? We'll talk after. Trust me, it's important. Right now we need to compartmentalize and deal with your family. I agree. As much as it pains my curiosity, the majority of the guests should be here by now, so hopefully we can just slide in and avoid... Daughter! It's so good to see you! Came a voice from a large balcony above them. Mother, it's been too long, replied Indara. I'll be down in a second, dear. I'm finishing some business up here, stated the woman, waving a dismissive hand towards the pair from her balcony. Several other people, visible, milling around near her. Well, shall we? Adam asked, gesturing to the massive, opulent doorway. Indara shook her head briefly and then nodded, following Adam into the 17-foot-tall archway. The atrium itself was utterly massive, decorated with black, marble-looking columns with gold inlay. Many people in colourful attire that all vaguely resembled armour of some kind milled around in small groups, sat at tables, or conversed with drinks in their hands. The majority were Shulvanti, of course, but he did spy several Warutteri in the crowd, along with a night crew woman, discussing something heatedly with an overweight shill. Snacks? Adam asked softly, hoping to deal with the unfamiliar group as little as possible. Much to his glee, Indara turned and nodded her head rapidly. Snacks. The pair beelined directly for a large table off to the left side of the auditorium, before a voice called from their right. Indy, it's so lovely to see you again. Aunt Cammy, how's life at the Blackstone? Indara replied, manually directing Adam away from the snack table and towards a mountainous woman. He was doing his best to remember the crash course he'd been given on the chain of command and royal family by his podmates months earlier, but couldn't put his finger on who could be called Aunt Cammy by his now fiancée. God, that's so boring. I'm relegated to paperwork these days, as opposed to getting to oversee proper field training of commando pods. How's life in Pod 7? The broad-shouldered and heavily muscled woman replied. She wore a colourful kilt and tartan, complete with a fur-lined leather top and metal gauntlets. Oh, as exciting as ever, she replied, gripping his arm tighter. We're playing guard duty for Duchess Riek, as you know, at least until the Interior wraps up their investigation. I'm so dreadfully sorry for that posting. Your pod was next up in the rotation for duty, and I signed the paper before fully reading it, Cammy replied with a chuckle and a wave of her hand. Oh, it's fine. At least we're not bogged down in some mire surrounded by roaches again. Completely understandable, she replied, turning her gaze to Adam, and raising a brow as a slight grin formed on her face. Let me take a wild guess. You're Sergeant Adam McGinnis. Replied Adam intelligently. He was mildly startled that someone in the Imperial family knew him, outside of Indara. Got it in one. Do I know you? I believe you should know of me, the mountain of a woman replied, taking another step towards him. I am your commander's commander, after all. Shit. Princess Kamalesh? He half-stated, half-asked. The large woman grinned widely before snapping to a thoughtful expression. Oh no, you're not, she said, now giggling softly as she made some apparent connection. I'm not what? Asked Indara. Your agreement with your mother. Him? Indara straightened next to Adam, raising her chin high and setting her jaw. Oh, come now, you didn't think your mother wouldn't tell me, did you? Princess Kamalesh asked. You know how she loves to gossip, and besides, me and your grandmother were the ones who approved your enlistment in the first place. You're right, and to answer your question, yes, him, she replied defeatedly. Will you be making the announcement tonight or at a later date? Kamalesh asked, soft enough to not be heard outside of their triangle. Tonight, Indara replied. I figure it's the best course of action, not allowing her to get some poor noble boy's hopes up. Oh, sweet mother, I'm not nearly drunk enough for this, Kamalesh replied, stroking her temples. Alright, I'm going to go fix that problem. Adam, it was lovely to meet you, and I'm terribly sorry for the shit show tonight will inevitably turn into for you. I do hope to reading more of your exploits in the reports that cross my desk. They get better every time. With that, she spun and walked quickly towards the bar at the back, and several well-dressed Shulvanti men making extravagant-looking drinks, tending the denizens of the room. Adam and Classy continued their earlier mission, and obtained a tray of small finger foods from the snack tray in short order, finding an unpopulated table in the room behind a large marble column. So, would you do at a gala like this normally? Adam asked, his mouth full of the sweetbread that they served at the snack bar. Me personally, or royals in general? Indara asked, looking up from where she was filling her face with the same bread next to him. Both, I guess. Well, most royals network. Business proposals, royal gossip, and imperial politics as a whole are probably the most important topics in the room, although depending on how far it's spread, your incident at selection might also pop up. It's not often someone kills two noble-born daughters. That makes sense, Ad replied, nodding his head. What about you? Well, she replied with a deep breath, I usually just try to find a dark corner and stay out of the Turok shit. I've never been cut out for the politicking, depending on who you ask. I'm either too timid or too blunt. So normally I find a corner, play a game on the data slate, and say hi to the relatives I can stand talking to, but that's mostly limited. Daughter! Hiding in the corner as always! A voice jokingly chided from behind Adam. He turned to face the slightly pudgy face of a Shulvanti woman with black hair in her early middle age. Her eyes momentarily widened as she almost imperceptibly recoiled under his gaze, before returning a surprisingly convincing fake smile to her face. Hello, Mother, Indara said in a strained tone, trying in vain to replicate the smile on her mother's face. Who is this lovely gentleman you have with you today? Princess Adwina asked, fixing Adam with a smile on her face, but toxins in her eyes. I'm Adam, he said, extending a fist to the woman. Nice to meet you. You as well, she replied, tone full of false emotion. Tell me, daughter, what is a podmate doing as your +1 for my party? Adam had to work to avoid scowling at the large woman, who had completely dismissed him in seconds. While he didn't particularly enjoy the concept of nobles, women like Indara and his experience with Kamalesh were miles away more pleasant than this woman. Mother, I would like you to meet my fiancé, Adam McGuinness. The man I got out of fucking prison? The woman spat under her breath, vitriol and poison tone oozing out of every visible metric on her body. I do you a favour, and you turn and twist my graciously offered deal like this? I've already gotten responses from the sons of the Phrygian Toxic Lines eager to meet with you. You said I had a year to find a husband, and you're already lining up men? Indara bit back. Oh, don't give me that Turok shit. Princess Arduina spat at her daughter. You had a year to find a good Sholvanti husband from a noble house. You never said that, and I would not have agreed to those terms. It was implied, frothed the woman. The granddaughter of the Empress can't be seen dating, let alone marrying, some stiffy ex-rebel from Terra. It's an absolute political nightmare. I have abided the terms of our arrangement. Will you not do the same? I've had enough of this impudent garbage, said the woman, stiffening and bearing a deep scowl. Guards! Drag this gutter trash outside where he belongs! Hey, hold the fuck up, shouted Adam, rising from his chair. He wasn't going to let this abuse go on any longer, let alone be dragged from the room without having something to say about it. I'm getting real sick of He was backhanded by Arduino into his chair, his head spinning at the force of the woman's hand. If you get back up, I'll hit you like a woman. You don't use a closed fist with a stiffy, at least not until they act up enough. Huh, said Adam, flinging two powerful arms wrapped under his shoulders. You hit like a bitch. He then spat the pool of blood that had formed in his mouth towards the woman, as his eyes began to refocus. The din of the party had stilled at the inception of her outburst, replaced by the ringing of his ears. Whether it was from his tetanus or from his blood rushing to his head, he wasn't sure. Oh, you are going to regret that, growled Arduina. Guards, hold him still. The common fuck needs to learn his place. The woman cocked her fist back, only to be interrupted as Classy leapt behind her and spun her several feet back, a large knife produced from a hidden sheath on her belt. Touch him again, and you'll regret it, she deadpanned. Adam knew that the sinewy and tough muscles of her frame were heavily belied by the billowing, colourful fabric. He definitely put his money on her inevitable victory in a hand-to-hand fight, but suddenly, one of the hands under his shoulder disappeared, the guardswoman drawing a pistol from her belt and stepping away from him, trained on the back of Indara's skull. Drop the knife! She bellowed. Adam had to do something, so he reacted instinctively, smashing a foot into the knee of the guard next to him, her 7-foot frame crumpling as he felt the knee shatter sideways under his booted foot. As she stumbled down, he reached over and jerked the pistol from the opulent holster on her belt, surprised at the fact it had no retention to it whatsoever. He locked the woman around her neck with his arm, pointing the gun at her head as he backed up, keeping her off balance as she struggled fruitlessly. Drop the gun, or your friend gets it, he yelled at the guard, who now looked significantly less confident in her position. The crowd in the room had pushed back at the weapons being drawn, their faces a mix of curiosity at the dinner theatre they were watching, horror and shock. He noticed the kilt-wearing Kamalesh making moves through the crowd. If he was a betting man, she was heading for the guard he was currently trying to convince to drop the weapon. What is going on? Bellowed a hoarse, feminine voice from the back of the crowd. Everyone, including the guard, turned to the newcomer, as the sea of partygoers all fell to their knees in rapid succession. An older woman, flanked by imposing guards in decorated purple armour, strode through the sea of people with anger and confusion scrawled across her face. This was a royal that Adam easily identified, from the pictures decorating nearly every office of the Sholvanti military bases he'd been in. The Empress had arrived.